So today's list catchers, and I'm going to start things off. He's not the man from West Philadelphia, born and raised, but he is a catcher in baseball, Will Smith.
Wow, 5.
I know. Listen. Last year, a 4-1 WAR. He did get his first All-Star selection. He at 28 years old in last season, a 126 OPS plus. In his 5 MLB seasons, he is someone that has averaged 30 homers, 102 RBIs per season. And I think Will Smith has been a consistent catcher. I think that's one of the biggest things that I noticed about his game. And I feel like as one of only 3 catchers this past season to register an OPS of at least 800, the consistency you've seen him with Will Smith is my numero 5.
I'll go number 5. I'm going with one of the Contreras brothers. I'm going with William from the Milwaukee Brewers. 3.8 WAR last year. His OPS plus was a 125, which is phenomenal for a catcher. 86 runs scored, 78 RBIs. He's one of those 80, north of 80 in each category type of guys. Hit 289 last year. Really solid 367 on base for a catcher. Really good glove and arm. So I have Contreras number 5. One of the 2 brothers to make my top 5.
Yeah, this was really, really difficult because we were trying to play the game. We talked about this with shortstops. We were trying to play the game of offense versus defense and how do you pair the two.
Sure.
Because if you're strictly going with the offensive productivity, William Contreras should be on your list and probably will be on your list. But I value defense at the catcher position really, really highly, probably only...
it's the most important defensive position.
It's that and shortstop to me are the
catcher
2.
Probably because catcher's involved in every play.
And heading into this season, I think that there is not a better defensive catcher in baseball. I think this guy wins wins a Gold Glove again in the National League, and it's Gabby Moreno from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Good enough offensive productivity in his first full season with the D-backs at a 270-something average, 284 average over 380 plate appearances, caught 111 games for Arizona. And this was one of those, we talked about those trades that work out for both teams. This was a trade that sent Dalton Varsho to the Toronto Blue Jays in exchange for Lourdes Gurriel and Gabby Moreno. Maybe Arizona won that trade for all we can talk about.
Moreno looks that good.
2 starters on their World Series team last year, but he led all catchers in defensive runs saved at 20. And when you talk about pop time with a guy like Gabby Moreno, he's right up there amongst the league leaders. He also leads the league in catchers caught stealing above average at 9. The second best was Patrick Bailey, and Shea Langoliers at 6, which means he's been one of the better defensive catchers, or was one of the best defensive catchers in baseball last year. If he can get that average, keep that average in the 280, get his home run total up into the double digits, drive in a little bit more than 50 RBI than he did last year in his 111 some odd games, I think he's going to continue to progress. And his defense is so good that I'm going to go with Gabby Moreno at 5.
All right. I like it. Number 4 for me, I'm going with the guy that led all qualified catchers last season in batting average, OPS, doubles, hard hit rate, WOBA, and WAR. That is brother William Contreras, number 4 on my list. Now, as you mentioned, Jamie, 3.7 WAR last year, Gold Glove finalist, ranked 4th overall in defensive value. His numbers, as defensively, fielding run value of 7, which was 87th percentile for all catchers. I just feel like William Contreras is really coming into his own. So it's tough being the younger brother and having that competition of who's the better Contreras. But I do think that this is going to be a year for William Contreras that's going to be impressive. Last year, the numbers that he had, 291 splits, 291, 369, 459 splits, 126 OPS plus. William Contreras, my number 4.
Yeah, number 4, I hate to give the Braves any sort of credit, and screw you, Oakland Athletics, once again. Sean Murphy, I'm going to have it number 4 here. A 250 average, which is okay. For a catcher, that's fine. But he did have north of 20 home runs last year, 21 home runs. I don't just think he's a product of a great lineup. On base, 365. His OPS plus a 125. OPS 844. Like, he has really good offensive numbers. Pretty much a 4 WAR last year for a catcher. Again, just a really good catcher, good arm, calls a good game, has a good staff. kind of the total package. So Sean Murphy, number 4 for me. Who do you got, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm also going Sean Murphy at number 4 in this list as well, because a lot of the defensive metrics we talked about with Gabriel Moreno also apply to Sean Murphy to some extent. A 1.9 pop time as well, equal to what Gabriel Moreno did. My number 3 is one of the only few catchers who had a better pop time than him.
1.7.
He was 1.8, 1.83, I believe. But Sean Murphy is one of the better defensive catchers, if not one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. Blocks above average this past season, he was at a 16, which was better than every catcher in Major League Baseball. He does a really good job of calling games. He does a really good job of framing his pitches, and it's not a surprise as to why some of the Braves pitching staff exceeds expectations. Well, obviously, we know what Strider is, but I think that a lot of these younger kids...
Yeah, he did a nice job with the young kids.
I think these younger kids are really going to have a chance to excel. A.J. Smith-Shawver and Bryce Elder are going to have a chance to excel over the next couple of years with Sean Murphy behind the plate. And like you said, a 250 average is solid enough. Got to 20 home runs for the first time in his career. He's hit almost 60 over the last couple of seasons. His last 2 years in Oakland, I know it's a cavernous ballpark. The power started to come. In Atlanta, he makes his first All-Star game. Obviously, that's probably a product of being with the Braves and not being with the dumpster fire A's. But I think that Sean Murphy is continuing to ascend offensively, and we know what he is defensively. I'm going to go Murphy at 4.
Sean Murphy was close to cracking into my list. He didn't make it, though. My number 3 is someone that's been top for all catchers in pop time. And our very own right here in Philly, JT Realmuto. Listen, he's not the number 1 catcher across the league anymore, but he still is a top 5 catcher without a doubt. He, last year, I feel like really cemented himself on the offensive side as well. Yes, there were times that we may have been frustrated with what he was, his decision-making as a catcher. We get it. But offensively, still top and rose to be top for the Phillies in triples. 13 stolen bases. His slugging percentage last year, around .461. Also top for all catchers in number 7, I should say, in block for the defensive side. Top for pop time with that 1.83 last year, which is just around his average. He's got a 1.81 pop time since 2018, which leads all Major League catchers. JT Realmuto is still one of the best in the game and still can do a lot of fantastic things on both sides of the ball. And I'm excited because I hope this year we get an even better JT Realmuto.
Yeah, I'm also have JT at 3rd as well. He's just a total package. I mean, he's an athletic catcher. He's great at framing. Sometimes I question if he calls the best games, but that's a minor gripe. But everything else well. Pop time, arm, athleticism, can hit for enough power in that 250 batting average range. His OPS, his OPS plus was only a 106 last year. It was undeniably a down year for him, but his down year was still a 3.6 WAR. 70 runs scored, 63 RBIs last year. He can do it all. I mean, he's not the best catcher in baseball anymore because there's this kid just 95 south of us. But he's certainly in the discussion for top 3 still in baseball because he's the total package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's make it 3 for 3. No longer BCIB, but a dip for JT Realmuto to move from 1 to 3 is it's not a knock on the guy. It's total just the fact that I think that the guy at number 1 has risen to such a claim at this point.
Sure,
that
he's
only going to continue to get better.
Yeah.
I will say this: 2 things that stick out to me with JT Realmuto. You talk about his pitch calling throughout the course of the last couple of seasons. Jamie has been suspect. I'll take it a step further. I think it's been downright bad. I think he's obviously really good at throwing runners out. He's
still framing. I think he's really good at it.
Yeah, and I think he still may be the best. Well, he is the best pop time guy, but I think he still is the best throw to second, get runners out, like caught stealing catcher in baseball. Even if the numbers suggest that some other guys have had better 2023s. The concern for me is that the 2023 offensive productivity for JT Realmuto is probably more the norm than it is an outlier at this point. And to hit 252, to drive in 60, to hit 20-plus home runs, to lead the league or to lead the team in triples, which is kind of odd, but I mean, he has 14 over the last 3 seasons. The guy does move extremely well for a catcher. I think that this is probably more the norm for JT at this point. I think his best years are probably behind him, but to move him from 1 to 3 is not a knock. He's still one of the best catchers in baseball. He's just not the best anymore. I just think he's trending downward at this point.
Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. And the number 1 guy's WAR last year was only 4.3. So, when you talk about how close he is to the best catcher in baseball. Like, he's not that far off in a down year. So if he has that resurgence, I think he can certainly get back to 2.
Definitely, I agree. It was a tough decision for 2 and 3, but I'm going with an up and coming youngster coming off of winning a World Series, is making an All-Star appearance, winning Gold Glove honors. Jonah Heim. Listen, Jonah Heim's dealt with some injuries, but we've also seen Jonah Heim's numbers continue to improve, especially on the offensive side as well. Jonah Heim has been someone that has been top of the league in RBIs. Last year, specifically, looking at 95 RBIs in the regular season, which led all catchers, I should say. So top in RBIs, top in batting run value, top in the offensive and defensive metrics that we see. His fielding run value of 12, top percentile. So overall, his catcher framing runs, his ability to just continue to progress season after season, his ability to catch, steal, guys start trying to steal base. He is someone that's young that I think with a full healthy season could be a scary thing to think about. But Jonah Heim for me, number 2, guys.
Yeah, it's not too often you see 6'4", 225-pound catchers. But for me, he was just outside with Gabby Moreno and the other Contreras. That was probably like my top 8. But number 2, I'm going to go with Will Smith. Unfortunately, the Los Angeles Dodgers just are a powerhouse. When you have a guy that's not even mentioned in Will Smith as like, a good player in the lineup, that's a sick offensive team. And you see what the Dodgers did yesterday? Put up 8 runs in the first innings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Dodgers, if they live up
Padres.
to their potential, are just going to be flat out scary this year. Will Smith had a 4.1 WAR last year, right on the heels of Rutschman. 260 average, right on the cusp of 20 home runs, which if you can get your catcher hitting over 21 or 20 home runs, you're in a pretty good spot. OPS and slugging probably need to go up a little bit if he wants any shot of keeping the throne away from JT. But 80 runs scored, 76 RBIs, potential north of 80 in both of those categories. 261 hitter, good defense, good arm. He's going to have a good staff in front of him this year. I feel pretty confident having Will Smith number 2.
Yeah, so do I, and that's why I'm going with Will Smith at number 2 as well. Echo a lot of the things that you just said. The one thing I will give him a ton of credit for is this guy gets on base at a pretty high clip for a guy that hits 260,
360
a near 360 OBP, and it's due in part to the fact that 2 of the last 3 years, he's posted an 11% walk rate. His strikeout rate over the last 2 seasons has been at the 16% as well. The guy doesn't strike out. He puts bat on ball a lot, and he gets on base quite frequently. The defense is good. I would say that it's not elite. It's good enough to be a really solid defensive catcher. And an OPS plus of 114 last season with hitting almost 20 home runs, driving in 76. It's 87 the year before, 76 the year prior. The guy is about as consistent as you can get offensively. 258, 260, 261 average, right in that 20 to 25 home run range. I think that Jamie, I think you're right. I think he's undervalued for this team because of the fact that they have so many top-level superstars.
Because they have all-stars everywhere else.
The guy is quite good.
Yeah, and another one that's very good. Picked number 1 overall in the 2019 draft and picked number 1 overall here for our catcher rankings, Adley Rutschman. Listen, Adley has been a rising star for Baltimore, a big reason why their team took such a huge leap last year and why they're a scary team to watch going into 2024. Adley led the team in hits, in RBI, was the top catcher in a number of different categories. You look at last year's stats and 154 games played, a 4.3 WAR, 80 RBIs, 20 homers, his splits 277, 374, 435 with a 128 OPS plus. And Adley is someone that has the potential to be not only the best catcher this season, but a top catcher ever. The stuff that we've seen from him, he's lived up to all the hype and more, unfortunately, for the fact that, he's in Baltimore. But that Baltimore team is very talented because of Adley. He's one of those pieces that has been able to really raise the bar for them. Now, this past season, when you look at the different things that he's been able to accomplish, he led all Major League Baseball catches and hits, all in on-base percentage, batting average, and has just been a clutch player for the Orioles. Young, still getting better, still improving. Adley definitely top of this list, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think the reason we all have him number 1 is because he's just scratching the surface.
Yes,
he could potentially get better. He came in at number 19 on MLB's top 100 players already. and I feel like he's 23 years old. I don't know what he actually is, Tyler.
25.
25. But he's just a baby. He's just getting, full years of service, and he's already the best catcher in baseball. This kid is a generational talent at the catching position. What else more is there to say about him? And Chris McCall, I believe that is in the chat. Yes, we will work with our friends at Philly Sports Trips to hopefully get a PHLY Phillies road trip down to Baltimore, because that's a pretty damn exciting team. And I have a soft spot in my heart for the Orioles. So it's nice to see them thrive because they got a great ballpark, great fan base. Tyler, you can finish off the Rutschman discussion.
I don't
here.
really have to add too much to this. The one thing I will say is, obviously, with advanced scouting and more eyes on players, from the time they're in high school through the time they're in college to the time they get drafted, the number 1 overall pick has been a much more successful hit over the last 20 years than it was in, especially in like the 70s and 80s, where, sometimes you might get an all-star, but the conversation of the fact that there are only 3 players ever to be inducted into the Hall of Fame as the number 1 overall pick is really soon going to change. And
it's Mauer. It's we went over this not that long ago.
It's Mauer, Griffey, and Chipper Jones.
Yes. Okay.
And now listen, I am not advocating for Adley Rutschman to be a Hall of Famer after 2 seasons. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to
no, he's a
pinpoint,
generational talent.
What I'm trying to pinpoint is I think that Major League Baseball has done a really good job over the last 20 years or so of being good more times than they're not at picking the number 1 overall pick, which is how it should be. But baseball is such a crapshoot that sometimes you just don't know. And Adley Rutschman might be amongst the best of the picks over, let's say, the last 10 years for certain. Now, let me give you guys this number real quick. In the 162 games before Adley Rutschman was promoted to the major leagues, what do you think the Baltimore Orioles record was?
In the what?
In 162 games prior to Rutschman being promoted to the big leagues.
75.
Not even close.
No, I was gonna say
63.
51 and 111.
Yeah.
Wow.
Since Adley Rutschman has joined the Orioles, they are 158 and 109.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
now, granted, the Orioles are a much better team now, and
Gunnar
especially
Henderson
last year,
sure.
than
He's
they
a
were
big
in
part
the
of
years
that.
prior to that. But you can't deny his impact on how they've turned the corner. He's their pitch caller. He's their their clutch hitter.
Yeah.
He's 150 some odd games behind the plate last year.
157
is insane in this day and age with analytics and time off. Adley Rutschman's a stud.